Alright, in today's video we want to talk about self-image because it's very important that we realize that we can never achieve anything that we don't affirm for ourselves. So the better your self-image is, the greater the results can be. So this is why I wanted to talk to you today about self-image, and hopefully it gives you some more ideas on how you can improve your life starting today, right where you are, with whatever you've got. Because the only thing you really need is your own mind. My brothers and sisters, welcome. Today I wanted to talk about self-image. Have you ever considered your own self-image? Self-image simply means the way you see yourself. Did you realize that you can never achieve something unless you first affirm it for yourself? In other words, if you don't believe you can do something, well, you can't do it. But once you start believing in yourself that you can do something, well, then you develop the strength and capacity to actually make something great happen for yourself. So many people in this world go through life with such low self-esteem. When I was growing up, I used to suffer from that. There was a time in my life I would have been nervous to talk about the subjects I'm talking about right now on camera. I would always feel very self-conscious about it. I would always worry that people might find it crazy, strange and weird. Well, to this day, people might find it crazy and weird what I'm talking about. Especially when I make the claim, when you imagine something, you actually already have it on an energetic level. But at this point, I might as well say to those people who think that's a weird claim to make, what's even stranger is selling yourself short. What's stranger is believing in limiting ideas about yourself and what you're capable of doing that causes you to not live a fulfilled life. Now that is what most people do, consciously or subconsciously. I know many of you out there perhaps can recognize this issue that we're facing, where we don't have the confidence that we would actually need in order to achieve our wildest dreams. You have goals and dreams that you would like to create for yourself, that you would like to achieve. You have things that you would like to share with your friends and family, with your lover, with your partner. But because of a lack of self-esteem, because of your self-image not being in harmony with what you want to do in this world, you're always feeling like there's a roadblock within your consciousness. Like you have the goal, but something seems to be holding you back. Every day you want to work at it, but you don't really do it. You have the inspiration, but you don't act on it. Why? Because your self-image is not programmed in the right way. You're not looking at yourself from the right angle. Now what I suggest people do, and something that I'm starting to do for myself, is to affirm for myself, and you should start affirming for yourself, the reality of what you want. So if you have a dream, a goal, which everyone, they do have them, but not everybody is aware of what they are. We've talked about this before, but once you become aware of them, you should start affirming for yourself that yes, it is possible for me to make this happen. It is possible for me to live this way. It is possible for me because it's all up to me. Let that sink in. Whatever you want, it's up to me. Who is going to stop you from achieving your dreams? Who is going to hold you back? Well, it's you, yourself. Who is going to hold me back from achieving my goals in life? Well, it's me. And how do I stop holding myself back? By accepting the greater good that I desire to experience in my world. How do I do this? By changing my self-image. I have to start affirming mentally and emotionally that I do have the power to make something great happen for myself. Now, self-image is a very, very important aspect of consciousness, because how is it made? Where does it come from? Well, self-image is based on the way you were raised. It's based on the ideas that you were told when you were growing up, first and foremost. Many adults are operating with a self-image that was developed when they were a little child. You are doing it, I am doing it. There are aspects within your consciousness, even as an adult, that you learned when you were a little child that are still holding you back to a certain extent. What is holding you back? Well, it can be different for everyone, but let's just be honest about it. If you have a goal in life and you doubt in yourself that you could do it, Well, that's probably an indication that you were raised in a certain way. Let's look at it differently. How many of you went through life and you heard perhaps your peers tell you that you were a little weird, that there was something weird about you? You may have been a little different than them. You didn't entirely fit in to the exact same pattern that they were following, so they would mock you. What happens then as a child? Well, not for every child, but for most of us, it starts to affect us. We start to feel bad about ourselves. We start to accept the crap that other people throw at us as being true about us. But that is not true. But the problem is that we accepted it. Now, as adults, the issue that we face is that we have to change our minds. If you're still a little child, it's easier to program the mind. But as adults, we have to change everything around more often than not, because we're so trained to live in a certain way. And then I come along or somebody else and they tell you, you have an imagination. Imagination is the power of the spirit of the universe, or what they call in a religion, God. Now let that sink in. Most people don't want to accept that. They don't even believe that. They pray to a God outside themselves. What I believe in is a God within me called imagination. It's a domain of infinite possibilities. If God is all powerful, as religion would say, well, I found this power to be my imagination within myself. And you know something? You have that. Everybody has an imagination. Are we using it? Now, you can use your imagination to change your concept of yourself. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing you have to change about your world other than what you think about it. You have to change your own concept of what you think you're capable of doing in order to do greater things. It makes sense, doesn't it? If you think about it. So what are your dreams? Depending on your dreams, they might be something that you've never done before. It means you have to change yourself according to that vision. You have to reaffirm a new self-image for yourself. So if you are poor, you have to learn to believe and say within your heart, I am rich. And you have to actually believe it. You have to see through your imagination that you are actually rich. If you want to be loved, if your love life is bad, you want to affirm for yourself that you are loved. How do you do it? Through your imagination. You start to build a concept of yourself as being a lovable person, and then you allow that to dominate your consciousness. Because there's many people who want a better love life for themselves, but they would say, I'm always meeting the same sort of crappy individuals, right? I'm always walking into the wrong partner. It always goes wrong for me. Well, if you start to change your concept of self, you'll start to meet different people on a different level entirely. Like the more optimistic you are, the more optimistic the people you will end up hanging around with. People who might not run away from you for whatever reason. But if you're pessimistic because your self-image is still affirming pessimism within your heart, well, then you can only encounter pessimistic events. Changing your self-image is one of the most important things you could do for yourself, because again, what you don't affirm for yourself to be true can never be achieved or experienced by you in your physical life. Now this puts us in a position to wonder and to consider the question that there always happens stuff in our worlds where we're like, I didn't ask for this. Well, the good news is it doesn't really matter that you didn't ask for something bad when it occurred. The important news, the important message here is to grasp that you can always change your self-image for the better. You can always start looking at yourself from a more positive, optimistic angle. And once you start doing that, your whole world starts to change. Your behavior starts to be influenced. In fact, your whole behavior is influenced by the current self-image that you have. So what sort of image do you have of yourself? How would you describe yourself? What do you think you're capable of doing? Because make no mistake about it, your answer to that question determines for a great deal what you'll experience as your so-called physical reality. For me, a self-image that I'm building and that I'm constantly developing more and more is this idea of being someone that talks about the mind, that helps people understand their minds, their consciousness better, so it can inspire them, it gives them something to think about in a positive way. Because I'm not talking about negative things with this channel. I'm trying to help people raise their level of awareness so that they can achieve more for themselves. But this is part of a self-image that I'm developing and that I will keep developing. because at one point it wasn't there. I would have been scared, I would have been nervous about it. I told you this earlier in the video. Again, what did I do? What is so different about me right now compared to years ago? Well, what's different is that I changed my self-image. How did I do that? By imagining a better future, a better version of myself. You can imagine a better version of yourself, and then by total commitment to that version, by totally being consumed by that better version that you created within your consciousness, by yielding to it entirely, well, you'll start to see your own behavior change. I know my behavior is kind of different than what it used to be, but this can also happen for you. After all, the way we act determines the results that we get. This is why it's so important to have a good self-image. You want to let go of everything that was taught to you that is of a negative nature, things that may have not even been true. People might have doubted in you, and then their doubts and worries and fears became your reality. You were thinking, oh, this must be true about me. They say I can't do something. Well, you started to believe that you can't do something. Your self-image was starting to form in a negative way. What I'm trying to do for you is help you develop a self-image where you start believing in yourself all over again, because that's your God-given, defined right in life as a human being. Now what happens? What happens for most of us? When we learn about this, well, we discover at first we can change our self-image simply by using our imagination, and we might work at this for a little bit, and then we stop. We go back to our old self-image, to our old habitual way of living. And we don't want to do this. We have to understand that this sort of aspect of our life experience is determined by us. Nobody else controls our self-image. We can allow them to influence our self-image for good or worse, but ultimately nobody can change our self-image for us. We ourselves always have to give them permission in some way. You allow somebody to throw their negativity at you, it's your decision to allow it to influence you or not. If somebody shares something positive with you, it's your decision to let it influence you or not. I hope these videos, you're letting them influence you because they're of a positive nature. Trust me, they can really help you. They make a huge difference in how you experience so-called reality. Now, this is what you want to remember again, is that once you start working on your self-image, at first you might have a little conflict. When you start affirming great things for yourself, part of you might not believe it instantly. But this is where you want to understand. It's kind of like working out, for example. If you train a certain muscle group, your arms, you lift weights, your arms become stronger. Well, this is how you want to look at developing your self-image. You build a greater version of yourself within your consciousness. You build a version of what you would like to be, how you would like to act in this world, of the sort of person you would like to be, and then you start developing it on a daily basis. You start adding energy to it by simply focusing on it every single day. Now, even though it might seem and feel a little strange at first, it feels unnatural actually, you want to keep doing it until it starts to feel natural for you to be this new version of yourself. In other words, you want to keep affirming the good that you desire as being possible for you. So you can say, I am rich, I am healthy, I am loved, I am lovable, I am happy, I'm fulfilled. You can make up your own affirmations in this manner, but the goal here is to start repeating themselves within your consciousness with feeling. You actually have to know exactly what you want so you can emotionally be involved in it. But as you keep doing it, it starts to take hold of you. Trust me, you'll start to believe in it. You'll start to become one with what you're affirming. You'll start to become transformed into this new self-image that you've developed for yourself. A self-image of power, success, possibility, of everything that you could ever desire. Now, this is something that most of humanity doesn't realize. They live perhaps a bad life, they would describe it. They feel stuck. They don't know that if they change their self-image, their whole world can change around. Why? Because the way you act is also determined by your self-image, as I said. So you see the importance of having a good self-image. Self-image ultimately fuels your self-confidence, your self-motivation, self-direction, self-realization, responsibility. It is all determined by the sort of self-image you have. The way you act, the way you see yourself, determines how you will act in this world. So take careful consideration of this in your own world. Don't let old ideas hold you back. Don't let negative ideas that were taught to you throughout your life hold you back any longer. You have a mind, use it. Your mind can think of anything it wants. Start thinking of positive things for yourself. Start affirming them with feeling. Start believing in them, and then allow it to become your way of life. Changing your self-image. Oh yeah. It's such a subtle thing, but so powerful that even to me sometimes it's kind of amazing to realize that the changes that are taking place in my world are all I can feel they're taking place because I'm changing my self-image for the better. And I keep working at it. I keep adding fuel to it. Like I might wake up and instantly what I do is I start to think about where I want to go with my life. I might read something inspirational. This is important. This is also part of my self-image. My self-image in this case is that I want to teach people more about their minds. Well, then I better live up to that self-image, right? Well, you do that by becoming one with it. You transform yourself into the likeness of your own dream, literally, as a person. So, another way of looking at this is like, if you have now achieved your dreams, what sort of person would you be? Start seeing it in your mind's eye. There are behavioral patterns that go with the fulfillment of any desire you have. Once you figure it out, start expressing it, start being like that person. That's all I'm doing right now. If I stayed the way I was years ago, being intimidated of talking about the mind, even on video, I mean, no joke, I would be very nervous. I couldn't do this from the top of my head as I'm doing it now. But I'm so convinced in what I'm telling you. I know that it is very powerful, so I'm not afraid of saying it out loud anymore. Unscripted, right? Well, that is what you want to learn to do for your own goals. You want to reach a point where you're so focused on what you want. You're so trained to have your mind work for you and not against you, that others will start seeing the transformation take place within you. You start to become a better version of yourself. So again, look at your dreams, analyze what sort of person you would be, and then start acting as that person. Even though at first, again, it might feel uncomfortable. Remember, practice will make you good at it. And we're not literally practicing it necessarily. Application is what makes you really good at this. You want to apply this idea. Look at your self-image. What sort of person do you think you are? You know, because the results in your life are determined by the sort of self-image you have. It's another way of looking at your infinite potential. A potential you can direct through your own imagination. Again, if somebody doesn't have the self-image of being successful, well, how can they be successful? They can't. It's either you have a self-image of success or failure. Where do most people live, you think? It's not fun to really talk about, but most people sadly live at the place of failure. There might be a numerous amount of reasons why that is so, but we simply want to focus on a self-image of success. We want to affirm that yes, we are capable of doing great things, no matter what the past is like, no matter what we have done, no matter what happened to us, we still have that power to do something great with our lives. If we start affirming for ourselves that we are the person that we want to be physically. We start mentally, we start inside our minds, and then we start to express that concept of ourselves to the world. So there's nothing you really have to do in order to improve your life other than change your mind. Because once you change your mind, once you change the concept of who you think you are, well, your whole world will start to adjust accordingly. Make no mistake about it. Alright, so the main takeaway of this video is again that you might have been raised with a negative self-image. Many of us are. We've heard stuff that isn't really to our benefit at all. We start doubting ourselves. As adults, we still doubt in ourselves. It keeps going on and on. Let's stop doing it. Let's start using our minds consciously and start reaffirming the change we would like to see. Again, as I said in the video, start looking at your dreams mentally. See what kind of person you should be when your dream was a reality. Or maybe I should put that differently. When you see clearly what your dream is all about, you'll also figure out what sort of person you are if it was a reality. Then allow yourself to be like that person already. Start acting like the person you physically want to become. That is how you alter your self-image for the better. That's how you stop doubting yourself and instead start believing. Anyways, with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.